the ANC will have to be answerable. We are against the expropriation without compensation.
Joining us today on the State of the Nation is the IFP leader, Mr. Velenkosini Hlabisa. Mr. Hlabisa, welcome back to the State of the Nation.
Thank you very much, my brother. I want to greet you as well as the viewers of the State of the Nation.
And we'd like to kick off by sending our condolences to the IFP and the family of your founder and former leader, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, passed away recently, and certainly condolences from our side, and much to discuss in the passing of your previous leader, isn't there?
Thank you very much for the condolences, and I also want to thank all people of goodwill throughout South Africa, in the continent of Africa, and throughout the world, who have been sending messages of condolences and prayers right from the time when the prince was in hospital and up to the time when, unfortunately, he was called to eternity. But the prayers and messages of condolences have given us strength. And above all, the people who physically came to bid farewell on his memorial, on his funeral service, really gave us consolation that people of South Africa, Africa and the world gave due respect to the man who served our nation for 7 decades up until his last day. And your message also joined in those messages that has made us strong, together with the family and all leaders of the party and the rank and file membership.
Yeah, it's obviously a sad moment for many people, but of course it's part of life, and things move forward. And certainly the passing of Prince Buthelezi definitely does shine a light back on the IFP. We in setting up this conversation, we want to talk about the role of the IFP going forward. There's obviously been many column inches devoted to the legacy of Mangosuthu Buthelezi, but we want to talk about the road ahead for the IFP in the passing of Prince Buthelezi. So let's kick off with the most obvious thing, and that is that that was quite clear from the outside that the ANC certainly picked this up as an opportunity to try and lure the IFP back to the friendship of the ANC. Is it going to work?
It is not going to work at all if they think they will become opportunistic. Fortunately, the prince left behind leaders who joined the IFP in 1975. I joined the IFP in 1978 when the youth wing was formed. So we know every history between IFP and ANC. We know all attempts. We still have amongst our ranks people who were present in the meeting that was held in London in 1970, where things started to go wrong between the two organizations. We still have the living files. There are very few people amongst the ANC who are still there, who were part of the meeting of 1970. We know all instances of 10-a-side meetings, 5-a-side meetings, 3-a-side meetings. We know all discussions with Oliver Tambo, with Mandela, and the latest attempts that were made by the Prince requesting the current president of the ANC, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, that before he closes his eyes, he wants this matter of reconciliation attended and finalized so that he leaves the correct record of history. Fortunately, we know the things he wanted to raise with Ramaphosa as he had raised before with ANC leaders. So now, if they think they will be opportunistic, I think it's very unfortunate. Of course, we are going to attend to the question of finalizing the reconciliation between the two organizations, but we will want truth to be told as truth. As you heard, people tend to blame the IFP or him alone in violence. It takes two to tango. And we have records of how many people died. We have details of our submission to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The ANC will have to be answerable to what they have to be answerable, and they will have to own it. And if they will be honest to own the truth as it is, we will reach a stage of true reconciliation, because we believe we need to reconcile the past by acknowledging and telling the truth as it happened, so that we close that bad chapter and open a new chapter in rebuilding a South African society that is reconciled as we go forward. So now we will expect honesty. And if they come with honesty, not being opportunistic, we will deal with matters in good faith with the ANC. But let me conclude by saying the reconciliation agenda has nothing to do with merger. The two political organizations will remain as separate entities with their different ideologies and policies, principles, and values. We can work together and build together our country, but not as one organization.
Because obviously the passing of Prince Buthelezi, he cast a big shadow on the party. You know, I don't think it was his intention. He certainly built up a structure that was more than a one-man party, but he still cast a very big shadow, and his name was synonymous with the party. You have the opportunity now, as the leader of the party, to plot the future of the IFP. Obviously, your views on the road ahead for the IFP are very much in sync with those of Prince Buthelezi when he was with us. But I presume that this gives you the opportunity now, quite clearly, you are the man in charge. You are the guy who is going to steer the ship. That's correct, is it?
That is very true. Indeed, the IFP will remain the same organization which was led by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi up to 2019, August 25, when I took over the reins. We know what he stood for at that time, and we have always articulated what we stand for. We did so the latest during the local government elections in 2021, and we received a great endorsement to the people of South Africa, but in particular in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Next year, we are going to the national and provincial elections. We will be articulating what the IFP stands for, and I will be in the forefront as the leader. Indeed, there was a time in our history where there was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was somehow synonymous to South Africa as a leader of the ANC. His time came and passed, and other leaders took over after him, similar to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. His name was synonymous to the IFP as a founder who led it for more than 40 years. It is always difficult in any organization when you have a founder who stayed a longer time, but fortunately with the prince, he voluntarily, not through the coup d'etat, handed over power and indicated that he is willing to groom, to support the new leadership. What he really did, honestly, for the past 4 years, our future as the IFP is very bright. We have no doubt we are going to grow as he left us growing, because the IFP is in an upward trajectory since 2021 local government elections. It will continue in that trajectory because we stand for what the people of South Africa long for. The government that is going to be accountable to them, and we are demonstrating such in the local sphere where we govern, to show accountability, honesty, our principles and values. We share them openly with the electorate. As a result, they have eventually came to a stage of trusting the IFP as a political party that can deliver to their mandate.
Okay, now, Mr. Hlabisa, because of the dual role that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi seemed to hold, and one was being leader of the IFP, which for a long time was the third biggest party in the country, and then that other role as being prime minister to the Zulu nation. It tended to give off the idea that the IFP was really just an extension of the Zulu monarchy, or certainly it's a place for Zulus only. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to keep that kind of identity alive, or do you plan to widen the appeal of the IFP?
When I took over the position of being the president in 2019, one of our goals was to expand our national footprint throughout South Africa. I took a tour in 2019, November to February 2020, went to Gauteng, Limpopo, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and Free State Province. And I was due to go to Eastern Cape in March 2020. COVID-19 kicked in, and the whole year was wasted. And even the following year, we only had a break when we were about to go to the local government elections in 2021. And then we had to concentrate ourselves more in 3 provinces: KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga province. In all those 3 provinces, we have lively and vibrant councillors belonging to the IFP, which is beyond the jurisdiction of KwaZulu. And we are now concentrating in Limpopo, Northwest, Mpumalanga, Gauteng, Free State, and KwaZulu-Natal, which is 5 provinces. And immediately after the elections, we will be expanding over Eastern Cape, which will mark 6 provinces, preparing for the 2026 local government elections. And in 2029, national and provincial election, we will have spread to all 9 provinces with effective and strong membership base on the ground. So now, as we speak, the view that we are a limited political party amongst the Zulu-speaking people or KwaZulu-Natal is disapproved by the fact that we have councillors in the Gauteng province and Mpumalanga province, which is outside KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay, so for those voters that hadn't perhaps considered the IFP as a political home in the past, right, for the reasons that we've outlined, what would be your selling point as the IFP to those particularly new markets that you're going after?
The IFP believes in a free market economy. South Africa is in the brink of being a collapsed state simply because the government of the day has a belief in socialism. They can be adapting day in and day out, but they have not publicly come out and showed in every way to support the free market economy and stand out openly against socialism. The kind of economy we believe in as IFP has proved throughout the world that it is able to restore a thriving economy. Secondly, the IFP will ensure that crime is our target. South Africa is a crime zone. We will close the porous borders. All the foreign nationals from the nearby countries who have no documents to be in South Africa, we will assist them to go back to their respective countries because there are crimes committed which cannot be accounted for as who is committing those crimes. People get in South Africa during the night, perform whatever activity, and get out South Africa because our borders are porous. The only person who should be in South Africa should be someone who is going to share his skills or her skills, and there must be a limited period of transferring those skills. Once time is over, the person must go back to his or her respective country, like what is normally done throughout the world. Thirdly, we will ensure that we provide the education system that will equip our young people to be productive citizens for the economy that will support our country. We need skilled young people who will contribute in the development of our economy. Our health system, we are against the national health insurance as proposed by the present government because it is not going to be working in favor of the people of South Africa, but is a theory which is being rejected by almost all medical practitioners in South Africa. We believe in a health system that will be inclusive of all health workers to take into account their concerns so that we provide a maximum health system to the people of South Africa. Load shedding. The IFP will ensure that load shedding is resolved within the shortest period as possible. We will outsource people who can come and share the shortest turnaround time in order to deal with load shedding. We will prioritize the infrastructure attention in terms of ensuring that the infrastructure is being taken care of because we are where we are, not simply because of many people who have been connected to the grid, but our government did not look at the infrastructure, and our infrastructure has decayed over a period of time. That is why we are where we are. The IFP believes you shall never have a thriving economy, and you cannot have people who will be willing to come and invest in a country with a load shedding of what we are having as we speak. And lastly, we will create an environment that is conducive for the foreign investors to invest in South Africa so as to create job opportunities. Yes, it is good to give people the social grants, but the social grants are not enough for our people to satisfy their needs, to build houses of their choices, to take their children to the schools of their best choices, and to eat what they like, because they do have money to buy what is the minimum they prefer, other than being compelled by the grants they are receiving. So we'll ensure that we invite foreign investors, create the environment to be conducive for the people to invest in South Africa, and thereby creating job opportunities. Because if the majority of people rely on grants, you will never have an economy that is thriving. If the majority are relying on the government for their livelihood, people must contribute back to the government through tax, because they work and earn money on their own.
Okay, so there's one question, or I was waiting to hear two specific points. And the first one, I think there's been, there's been some history with the IFP, and that's around corruption. We know that in the past there have been some IFP municipalities that haven't been run fantastically. We remember the early days of KZN, where the IFP were not exactly necessarily governing in the best interest of the people. Where do you stand on corruption? Because it's going to become a bigger and bigger factor. You guys already, the IFP already runs a few municipalities in KZN, a number of municipalities. Where do you stand as leader of the IFP on corruption? Because it's obviously one of those issues, easy to say, well, we don't like it, but you want to see action if it does rear its head. What is the IFP stance on corruption?
The IFP stance on corruption is clear and known now by the people of South Africa, because in any given moment when there is a mayor of the IFP implicated in corruption, not the baseless allegations, because you can't take actions on the basis of allegations that are not being substantiated. From 2021, we have changed more than 5 mayors on allegations of corruption or misbehavior. And people of South Africa has commended the IFP in the 5 instances I'm referring to, that we were decisive. One thing the IFP is good about, we are not afraid to take a bold decision. We are able to be decisive when it is time to make a decision. We have demonstrated it, and we will keep on demonstrating it. And we constantly tell our public representatives that we are watching you, but over and watching you, we are ready and willing to give support and guidance where such is needed. But when you grossly do a wrong thing at the expense of the community, we will not hesitate to remove you. And we have demonstrated such, and we will keep on demonstrating the same.
And you mentioned that you're committed to free market principles and an open economy. Black economic empowerment, Is that policy going to remain in place under an IFP government?
Indeed, the Black economic empowerment should be done better than what we have today. We do not support what we see in most cases where you find the fronting with Black people. At the end of the day, it is not them who benefits the most. And we are against the Black economic empowerment if it means nepotism. It is going to be limited to the limited families and friends of the few. We believe in an all-inclusive economic empowerment of the people of South Africa, but take into account the previously disadvantaged communities, but not at the expense of those who happen to be on an advantaged side prior 1994. That is why, even if when you come to the question of land, we are against the expropriation without compensation, because you will destroy what you have if you do so, and you will not be able to attract the foreign investors to come and invest where they do not know the future of their investment. We believe in the expropriation with compensation. The government must take lead. There is land under the control of the government. That land must be given to the previously disadvantaged people, and those who own land and use it effectively to produce food. It doesn't make sense to take that land away, because you will not have the people who will be having skills to produce and support food in our country. All you have to do is to mentor young people, go back to high schools, reopen agricultural science as a subject, reopen agricultural colleges, train young people to be prospective farmers. Once they complete their education at a training level, mentor them under the farmers who have been in the field for many years, so that you transfer skills. Therefore, if you want to buy land from the landowners to the young prospective farmers, you give it to people who will use it profitably and beneficially to them as individuals, but also producing food for our country. So now, on the question of Black economic empowerment, we believe in the economy that will empower people of South Africa, but consider those who were previously disadvantaged, but do not take down those who were on the side of the advantage prior 1994.
So you will keep the legislation on the books?
The legislation will need a major review, because it has not taken Black people forward, and it has been open to abuse at an alarming scale. So we'll need to take that legislation for a major review.
Okay, so you were an active part in the discussions around future coalitions. The talks that took place at Empress Palace. You've been a stalwart of the coalition. You haven't got involved in the squabbling that the DA and Action SA and Patriotic Alliance and some of the other actors have been there. I think it's between yourselves and the Freedom Front Plus who's been the most determined to get the coalition working. Firstly, we haven't spoken to you since the conclusion of those talks. Were you happy with the way it went?
As a beginning and as a start, it was a great progress for our country, because the truth of the matter, unless we prepare for the future, we will be found unprepared and become wanting. So as a beginning, I was happy. but we have a great responsibility to expand the political parties who will be part of the multi-party charter, because the elections since 2016, we started to have coalition government. It became more in 2021, and it is very clear that next year there will be no one political party, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and nationally, that will have more than 50% plus one. And we should not be found wanting like the city of Johannesburg. The city of Johannesburg is a joke metro, because since 2021 up to now, they have more than 5 mayors. And the mayors we have, even the one currently, when it comes to competency, is a nightmare. But the ANC and its partners keep in that coalition because they were found unprepared to do a right coalition using capabilities and competencies to deploy people to ensure maximum benefit of the residents of the city of Johannesburg. We do not want to have the same in South Africa. As we rightly know, our country is at the brink of being a failed state. Load shedding is a shame. In South Africa, crime, unemployment, almost everything is moving from good to bad and eventually to worse. Therefore, it was a good start. We need to cultivate the ground, invite more players to join the charter. All people of goodwill, there is no other opportunity than now. If we can allow the disaster that is carrying on in our country, the extent of corruption, the unsafe environment, the unemployment rate, it is a shame when we have graduates, medical doctors. We never thought we will reach a stage in South Africa where we will have medical doctors, let alone teachers and all other professionals who are sitting home with their degrees. They can't find any job. Vacancies are there, but there is no money to pay them. If we can allow these to go beyond 2024, by 2029, we will be a failed state in Africa and in the world.
Now, we were lucky enough to catch up with the recently appointed DA nominee for provincial leader, and that is Chris Pappas. He came by our studio recently. There's a good chance that that the ANC, I think they in the last election they got 54% in KZN. Are you hopeful that you and your coalition partners can take over KZN?
The demonstration of the by-election is a writing on the wall, because the ANC is losing from all parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Should it be the rural area, the urban area, north, southern part of the province, they are losing left and right. And they are making one blunder after the other. Clearly, people of South Africa are speaking every time when there is a by-election, they speak loudly that they are done with the ANC. And next year, the chances for ANC do not exist to get more than 50%. As you rightly say, they went down to 54%. Mind you, the Action SA was not there. It's a new player in the bloc. The Patriotic Alliance was not there. It's a new player in the bloc. We have many players, and all these players, the Patriotic Alliance may not see eye to eye with the DA or Action SA, but we all agree that the ANC is a common enemy that has made our country a place of shame. Even if you go to the EFF might be in some coalition with the ANC, but they say it openly that they do not want the ANC as a government of our country in 2024. So now, all chances point to the direction that the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, in Gauteng, and nationally, they will be out of power.
Now, we kicked off by talking about some of the terrible legacies of the transition to the new South Africa, and that was the violence in KZN, and that was through the contestation. That at that point in time was sort of focused on the IFP and the ANC, and terrible violence flared up. Now, in KZN, to date, we've seen some horrific numbers of councillors that have been murdered, of political contestation that turns violent. Do you have a concern that, KwaZulu-Natal, we saw the riots in 2021, do you have a concern that KZN could erupt if what you say now comes true?
No, KwaZulu-Natal will not go back to the time you are referring to, because if you look closely on the councillors being the target, at most, it is from within their political organizations, at most. And you would understand that it's either power struggle or it is around corruption. Now, that does not include the rank and file members of the society. And it will be one or two where you find the arrest pointing to another political organization in all the killings that we have. And whenever there are by-elections, the contestation is very hot between the IFP and the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. But the climate is conducive for that contestation. Sometimes you find ANC members dancing to the song of the IFP or vice versa. We are clear that we want to remove the government that has failed us. On the other hand, the ANC wants to be retained in power, but we are clear that let people make the choice. Whoever can be removed from power, there will be no riots that we have been removed from power, because we have seen the ANC losing municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal, in Western Cape, in Gauteng, in many parts of the world. And the majority of the people in South Africa really are no longer happy with the ANC. The only riot that you can have, the uprising or revolution, is when the ANC rob the voters and retain itself in government. The outbreak of a revolution is something we cannot rule out, because if people have nothing to lose, they can do anything. But if people see it's a new government, then they will say, give them a chance and see whether they will do something better than the government that has failed us for 30 years. So now the question of violence is not there, and the question of a revolution or an uprising should the ANC lose its power is just not there. Instead, people will celebrate that, oh yeah, our money's gonna be in the safe hands, because corruption and the ANC, unfortunately, has become synonymous.
Well, Mr. Velenkosini Hlabisa from the IFP, hopefully you lead to, we've already seen the revitalization of the IFP since you took over in 2019, the by-elections show it. We wish you more success in your role as leader of the IFP. And, you said it best, it's the will of the people. To everybody who's watching today, if you are happy with the way South Africa is today, then don't vote or vote for the ANC. If you want change, you have alternatives. One of them is the IFP. Mr. Hlabisa, thank you so much for joining us today. To all the viewers here on the State of the Nation, thank you. As I say every week, every time you hear from me, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We need all the subscriptions we can get. Mr. Velenkosini Hlabisa, thank you so much for joining us today on the State of the Nation.
Thank you very much. And I also want to thank the viewers of the State of the Nation. It was a great opportunity, and it will always be a great opportunity to exchange our views with you as well as your viewers. Thank you very much.